Her grin stretched unnaturally broad, far too triumphant for the occasion she had picked to strike the final blow. My retirement celebration. The banquet hall packed with coworkers, old friends, and people who believed they understood my life. "Let's make tonight unforgettable," she declared loudly, waving the divorce papers overhead like a victory flag. Her children whooped and clapped. My own biological kids stared at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I didn't react. I simply accepted the pen, signed my name with a steady hand, and leaned in close to her ear. "You truly have no clue what you've just set in motion." She gave a smug little laugh. She was certain the war was over and she had triumphed. She never realized she had actually unchained me. I had married Claire when I was 58, seasoned by life, supposedly sharper and far less naive, or so I told myself. She entered my world like a gentle dawn after a long, bitter winter. Warm voice, tender touch, effortless charm. She laughed at every one of my stories, even the tired ones I'd repeated for decades. Her 2 children started off cautious, sizing me up but always courteous. I fed them, dressed them, covered private schools, sports equipment, concert tickets, every passing fancy. For 12 months they called me Uncle Richard. By the 2nd year the word was Dad. For a sweet stretch of time, I actually believed I had pieced together a second family. Perhaps that's why the knife twisted so viciously, not the collapse of the marriage itself, but the fact that I had allowed myself to feel I truly belonged. The first cracks were barely audible. Oddly late evenings at the office, a brand new obsession with the gym, her phone forever flipped screen down on the table. Yet the instant everything shattered was almost laughably ordinary. She walked in one night wearing an expensive watch she had sworn was way beyond our budget. 7 days later, I spotted the identical timepiece, same tiny scratch along the bezel, in a photo her son had posted on Instagram. The background was unmistakably a hotel suite, one I had booked and paid for through my company's corporate rate that she never knew I could monitor. The caption underneath, "Best family getaway ever, Mom and Uncle Darren spoiling us rotten." Uncle Darren, the old college sweetheart. The one she swore was ancient history. I didn't break down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. Something inside me simply turned to ice while my brain switched into crystalline focus. Grief rapidly morphed into strategy. Step 1 was absolute quiet. People always misread silence as surrender. In reality, silence is the workshop where revenge is forged. I photographed every bank statement she left scattered on the dresser. I exported years of joint account transactions. I screenshotted messages, saved metadata, noted exact dates and times. I sat across from my attorney in hushed, methodical meetings. While she stayed late at work, I worked later and far more effectively. I quietly transferred every asset I could into an ironclad trust she could never touch. I rewrote the will and the estate documents, erasing her name. I ring-fenced my pension and 401k so that the moment the decree was signed, her access would evaporate. Everything strictly, perfectly legal, and every move sheltered by the prenuptial agreement she had once rolled her eyes at and called unromantic. She had forgotten what I actually did for 35 years. Spotting fraud, tracing hidden money, building airtight cases against executives who thought they were untouchable. She married a professional paranoia engine and then decided to rob him blind. I almost pitied her. Almost. So when she chose my retirement party, my night, my career's final bow, to humiliate me in front of 200 people, I gave her the performance she wanted. I looked stunned, wounded, utterly crushed. Guests shook their heads at how cruelly a good man was being discarded at 61. They murmured sympathy in her direction too, the brave woman finally standing up for herself. What nobody in that room knew was that my divorce petition had been filed electronically 1 hour before the first guest arrived. What nobody knew was that the prenup she had mocked shielded every dollar I had ever earned. Everything except the house her kids had grown up in and believed would always be theirs. What nobody knew was that her affair triggered the infidelity clause, documented, geotagged, impossible to dispute, which meant she walked away with exactly nothing. Not a cent of alimony. Not even the cars in her name that I still held the titles to. 90 days later, the judge's gavel fell like a guillotine, watching Claire's face when the words left the bench. "Mrs. Daniels, you are awarded none of the marital assets, no spousal support, and you will vacate the residence within 14 days. Was better than any movie ending I'd ever seen. Her children glared at me like I had personally murdered their futures. Yet for years I had paid their allowances, their orthodontist bills, their college application fees, and they had still stood behind the ballroom cheering while their mother gutted me publicly. They were never truly mine to mourn. Outside the courthouse she cornered me, mascara rivers running down her cheeks, voice cracking. "You've destroyed me," she hissed. "No," I answered, perfectly calm. "You destroyed yourself. I merely stopped funding the wreckage." Her son took one aggressive step forward, chest puffed, fists clenched. Courthouse security shifted their weight. He thought better of it and shrank back. Claire reached for my sleeve, fingers trembling. "Please, we can still fix this. We can try again." I leaned in just close enough that only she could hear, while her children watched from 10 feet away, confused and furious. "Do you remember the exact night you handed me those papers in front of everyone I'd ever worked with?" She swallowed hard. "Yes. You thought you were ending me." I allowed the smallest, coldest smile I'd ever worn. "All you really did was set me free." I turned and walked down the marble steps. No backward glance, no second thoughts, no remorse. That same evening I sat alone in my house paid off decades ago, title solely in my name, and felt a sensation I hadn't known in years. Quiet, true, unburdened quiet. Not victory, not gloating. Simple, hard-won peace. I poured 2 fingers of the good scotch I'd been saving for a better occasion, raised the glass to the empty room, and spoke the same line once more, softly, to the silence. "You had no idea what you just did." And for the first time in a very long while, neither did I need to explain it to anyone ever again.